What I am describing here, folks, is the central paradox of American politics, and I'm here to tell you it's time we looked it in the face. The Republicans are a party that has historically worshipped big business, that has promised to do everything it can to smash workers' organizations and to protect the holdings of the wealthy from the clamoring of the low-born. And in the course of the last 40 years, the Republicans have ushered in a revolution in how we thought about economics. They cut taxes for the rich. They deliberately made it easy for manufacturing to move overseas. They rolled back regulations on nearly everything, as we all know. They allowed monopolies to start coming together again. If you want to know how that great society of 1965, how it died, well, this is how. This is the big new thing that the Republican Party brought to America. And now, here, you have this party getting returned to office by blue-collar Americans who have been spectacularly damaged by its signature ideas. This is the paradox of American politics, and we have to try to understand it. Now, I'm not going to bother tonight with the Republicans' own explanations for why they did all those things. And you've heard their claims. The market always knows best, they say. Monopolies are harmless. Unions are dangerous. Regulation doesn't work, and the rich simply must have tax cuts, right? I'm not going to bother with any of that because we now know that none of it is true. We also know that very few people vote for Republican candidates because they want their boss to have a McMansion, or because they want to go bankrupt paying for their health care, or because they hate the idea of clean food and pure water. So why has it happened? Well, there's two fairly accurate explanations that you often hear for why it's taken place, and they should be familiar to you. And the first is that the Republicans did all this not by persuasion, but by the power of money back in Washington, D.C. And the second is that Republicans win elections not by making economic arguments, but by stoking white voters' racial anxieties, by turning them against activist government, by reminding them that activist government does lots of things to help the minorities that they hate. And both of these explanations, by the way, are correct. They are correct descriptions of the politics of the last few decades, but they aren't the whole story. And the explanation I'm going to give you tonight is both, I think, scarier than what we usually hear, and also at the same time more hopeful. And it starts with the observation that Republicans, if you listen to them closely, Republicans often appeal to the left behind with the most democratic-sounding, egalitarian-sounding arguments. They don't tell us to be content with our lousy lot in life. No, you know what they do. They stoke people's fury, people's anger. They pose as defenders of the long-suffering silent majority, of the forgotten man. And the reason Republicans pretend to be populists is because this is a populist age, right? An age for defying authority and for hating the guy in charge. Republicans don't speak to us today like John D. Rockefeller or something, invoking the divine right of money, or demanding that the lowly learn their place in the great chain of being. They do the opposite. They present themselves as enemies of the elite, as the voice of the unfairly persecuted, as a righteous protest of the people on history's receiving end. They're sitting right there on the couch with you as you watch some millionaire football player or Hollywood dandy insult your values and mock your patriotism on TV. Organized discontent, a right-wing leader used to say back in the 70s when all of this stuff was shocking and new. And folks, that is exactly what they do to this day. They love discontent. They stoke the flames. They provoke it constantly inventing new culture wars for you to get mad about. The war on Christmas, the war on Dr. Seuss, the endless complaints about TV news or public education, even the COVID pandemic. Every single one of them framed in the same way. Look at those arrogant liberal elites corrupting your innocent children or persecuting you for your humble folk ways. Now, what fascinates me, and if you've read any of my books, you know this, what fascinates me about these culture wars is that if you look closely at them, all of them, each one of them, is a mimicry of the historical left. The populist left, that's a Kansas word, by the way. You know, it was invented in this state, the word populism. The populist left, which long ago used to stand up for working people, accuse elites of lying to us via the news, arrogantly imposing their values on us, and so on. That was our team that did that. And the culture wars work because attacking those elites is a kind of imitation of the politics that we ought to have in this country. I mean, we should hate elites. Not school librarians, maybe, but CEOs, yes, certainly. Big tech, hell yes. The news media, absolutely. Hating them is a totally reasonable response to this world we're living in. The Republican Party knows this. And like good politicians, they use it, urging us to enlist in this endless fake class war that is so juicy, so entertaining. You know, it's all about you being persecuted by these distant, uncaring elites. This class war that never solves the problem.